He was always there, in the hallway, on the stairs, near the mailboxes, walking past everyone, every single day. But no one really saw that boy. On the morning when the ambulance stopped in front of the building, its siren cutting through the quiet, it was already too late for anyone to notice. His name was Nathan. He was thin, his backpack always sliding off one shoulder. He wore the same two faded t-shirts all week, switching one for the other like it was all he had. He lived at the very end of the hallway, in the smallest unit in the whole building. That door everyone knew was there, but no one really knew who lived behind it. His mom worked night shifts at a hospital. His dad was more like a shadow than a real person. Sometimes people heard a shout, sometimes the sound of a glass bottle hitting the sink. Then silence. In the mornings, while the other teenagers ran down to school, laughing, talking about trips and new phones, Nathan stood by the elevator, leaning against the wall, trying to make himself smaller, as if he didn't want to bother anyone. Neighbors saw him out of the corner of their eye, and almost every time, they looked away a second later. "I'll talk to him later. I'm in a hurry today." Some thought. That later never arrived. Down in the lobby, it was always the same. The doorman greeted the residents one by one. "Morning, Mrs. Collins." "Morning, Mr. Davis." When Nathan walked by, the most he got was a quick look. No smile. No name. One day, something happened that should have changed everything. But it didn't. A little girl from the building, Lily, was walking near the parking area. She tripped. At the same time, a car was backing up, the driver half looking at his phone, half looking at the mirror, not really seeing anything. Her mom was distracted, talking with another neighbor, too far to reach her in time. The one who ran, who dropped his own backpack on the ground, who threw his body forward to pull Lily to the side, was not her. It was Nathan. He pulled her out of the way, seconds before the car reached her. The driver slammed on the brakes, cursed, then apologized. Lily's mom hugged her daughter, shaking, full of relief. Nathan just stood there, breathing hard, his hands still shaking, looking at them, waiting maybe for a thank you, or at least a real look in his eyes. She glanced at him quickly, gave a small nod, then turned away, putting all her attention back on Lily. Later, when she asked her daughter who had helped her, Lily said, "It was the quiet boy at the end of the hall, the one nobody talks to." Her answer was simple, almost automatic. "Oh, what matters is that you're okay." And life went on. Time passed. People started talking a bit more about that last apartment. Some said they heard arguing almost every night. Plates breaking, doors slamming, a man shouting, "You're useless! You hear me? Useless!" One night, a neighbor walked down the hallway late. Only one light was working, so the hallway was half dark. In the middle of that quiet, she heard a soft cry. The sound was coming from the end of the hall. She slowed down. Her steps got softer. Her heart sped up, even before she reached the door. She stopped in front of the last apartment. Nathan's voice came from inside, small, shaking between sobs. "I promise. I'll do better. Just don't give up on me, please." Her hand moved a little closer to the door, then stopped. She leaned in, almost pressing her ear against the wood. Something heavy hit the floor inside. Then silence. Air got stuck in her chest. Part of her wanted to knock, to ask if everything was okay. The other part whispered, "Don't get involved. It's family stuff. You don't want problems." She listened to the wrong part. The next day, she saw Nathan in the elevator. He kept his head down. There was a light bruise near his eye and a red mark on his arm. He pulled his sleeve down when he noticed her looking. A little boy in the elevator held his mother's hand and whispered, "Mom, I think someone hits him." The answer came out almost by reflex. "That's not our business, honey. His parents know what they're doing." She said it, without really believing it. A few days later, the same neighbor took out her trash. As she walked down the stairs, she saw Nathan sitting on one of the steps. He had a notebook open on his lap. He wasn't drawing. He wasn't doing homework. He was just writing, very focused, his lips moving a little, as if he was reading the words in his head. When he noticed he wasn't alone, he quickly closed the notebook, his fingers tight on the cover. He started to stand up, unsure if he should say something or just leave. "It's late, huh, Nathan?" she said, more out of politeness than real interest. He took a breath. His shoulders went up, then down, like it cost him something to speak. "Ma'am, can I ask you something?" "Sure," she replied, with a light smile that didn't reach her eyes. "If I disappeared, would you notice?" She gave a nervous laugh. "Come on, kid. Why are you asking that? Don't say weird things like that. You should go to sleep." He didn't smile. He looked straight at her, with eyes full of water. "It's just that sometimes I feel like if I wasn't here, nothing would change for anyone." Something inside her chest twisted. On the outside, she just said, "Of course not. Everyone is important to someone. Go on. Good night." He gave a small smile, not a happy one. The kind of smile of someone who understands he won't be heard that night. Then he turned around and went back up the stairs, the notebook pressed to his chest. The next morning, the building woke up to the sound of sirens. One, then another, then another. People opened their curtains, looked down, saw flashing lights. An ambulance, a police car, neighbors in pajamas, standing on the sidewalk, arms crossed against the cold. Doors started to open in the hallway. People peeked out, whispering to each other. At the end of the hallway, Nathan's door was wide open. Two paramedics went in and out, carrying equipment, speaking in low, serious voices. From inside the apartment, someone said, "It's over. There's nothing we can do." For a few seconds, everything around went quiet. It was like the building itself was holding its breath. The paramedics came out, pushing a stretcher. On it, a small body, covered with a white sheet, up to the neck. Some recognized him, only by the hair, by the thin shape of his shoulders, by the way his feet didn't reach the end of the stretcher. A boy in the hallway held his mother's arm tighter. "Mom, that's him, right? That's Nathan." She couldn't answer. Her knees felt weak. Her throat closed. She just watched as they took him away. Later that day, pieces of the story started to spread from mouth to mouth. In the elevator, by the mailboxes. In short, guilty whispers. Nathan had been missing school for days. The school had called, sent emails. No one answered. One neighbor heard crying one night and turned up the volume on the TV. Another saw his father drunk on the sidewalk outside and laughed it off as typical. All of it had happened right there, right in front of everyone, and everyone had looked away. By the end of the afternoon, the cleaning lady knocked on a door. "Excuse me, this was left by your door." I think it was his. It was the notebook, the same one from the stairs. On the cover, in blue pen, there was a title: "Things Nobody Knows About Me." Hands shaking, the person opened it. On the first pages, there were simple lists. I took out trash from all the floors when the doorman got sick. I returned the wallet that the man in 402 dropped in the garage. I sat on the bench with Mrs. Green until her daughter came because she said she felt dizzy. I pulled the girl from 2103 away from a car where she would have been hit. Page after page, he wrote small things he had done for people in the building. Little acts of care that no one had ever connected to him. He wrote them down like he was trying to prove, even if only to himself, that he existed. Near the end, one sentence was circled, again and again. "I'm always here, even when nobody sees me." On the last page, the handwriting changed. The letters were shaky, as if his hand wouldn't stay still. If someone is reading this, it means what I feared the most already happened. I'm not writing this so anyone feels guilty. I just wanted to know if at least once someone would remember me. Tears fell on the paper. The ink blurred in some spots. For the first time, someone in that building truly saw the size of the emptiness their indifference had created. Sometime later, the silence in the building was louder than any noise before. People went on with their lives, went to work, came home, ordered food, watched shows. But something felt heavy in the air. Then someone suggested something no one had ever suggested before: a memorial. In the lobby, near the elevator, they put up a corkboard. At the top, they wrote, "In memory of Nathan, the boy who was always here." Each resident got a small piece of paper. There was only one request: write one thing, even something small, where Nathan touched your life. The man from 402 wrote, "He helped me carry my groceries 3 times, even though I never asked his name." Mrs. Green from 101 wrote, "He sat with me on the bench when I felt dizzy and didn't let me stay alone." The doorman wrote a long note. He was the only one who asked if I had eaten on rainy nights. A child wrote in large, uneven letters, "He saved my life, and I didn't say thank you." The board started to fill up, paper after paper, line after line. Right there, in front of everyone, the boy no one saw finally became visible. That night, many people stood in front of the board for a long time. It hurt to admit this truth. People always wait for great heroes, big gestures, huge stories. But they ignore the small acts of kindness done in silence by people who never get anything in return. Nathan wasn't just the quiet boy at the end of the hallway. He was the invisible thread holding that building together. And they only noticed when the thread snapped. Since then, one rule changed in that place. If someone seems too quiet, too alone, too hidden, no one pretends not to see anymore. Someone asks if they're okay. Someone calls them by their name. Someone listens. because now they know. Sometimes, the biggest danger is not when someone screams for help. It's when someone says softly, "If I disappeared, would anyone notice?" And people choose not to answer. In that building, no one is just another resident anymore. They learned that lesson, too late, from a boy who was always there, when no one wanted to see him.